Since the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, one nation has been a consistent mediator. This mediator is none other than Turkey. But now Ankara is witnessing the US, the EU, and other stakeholder countries all take the lead in peace negotiations, meaning Turkish troops might be heading to Ukraine if negotiations fail. Despite being supportive of these negotiations, Turkey is trying to maintain strong economic ties with their partners in Russia. And with nations seeking to send troops to sustain peace, Turkey might be a central cog in the chain that holds this peace agreement together. Since the dawn of the Russian invasion, Ankara has been focused on keeping ties with both Russia and Ukraine. Turkey is a member of NATO, often restricting their interactions with Putin, but also holds a lot of power within NATO itself. In fact, Turkey has the second largest military in NATO, which consists of more than 350,000 active troops. However, no one has ever seen the light of this incredible force, only to be rivaled by the United States and possibly France. With such a strong position in NATO, Turkey played a vital part in allowing both Sweden and Finland to join NATO, two proposals Ankara was initially hesitant to accept. Moreover, Turkey borders the Black Sea, a landmark of strategic importance, with all imports and exports having to go through the country. Once the rest of the world put sanctions on Russia, Turkey simply refused, granting Russia access to use the Black Sea for its dwindling exports. But since taking office in 2014, Recep Tayyip Erdogan has signaled strong support for Ukraine. Initially, Turkey condemned the annexation of Crimea in 2014. This was followed by deeper condemnation following Russia's invasion in 2022. In fact, Turkey was one of the first nations to send military aid to Ukraine following the war. The introduction of the Bayraktar TB2 drones would play a major role in stemming Russian advances. This was especially helpful while Turkey awaited further assistance from its Western partners. To further reduce the conflict, Ankara invoked the 1936 Montreux Convention. Under this convention, Turkey could close both the Bosporus and Dardanelles Straits to warships. This essentially prevented Russian warships from exiting the Black Sea. Many of these ships, including the sinking of the Moskva, the Russian Navy's flagship of the Black Sea Fleet. Furthermore, Turkey brokered the very important Black Sea Grain Initiative, which secured the continual export of Ukrainian grains to the rest of the world. In fact, all initial reports suggested that Turkey was siding with NATO and the rest of Europe. Well, this would be the case until the West began ramping up pressure. As of this video, the EU has imposed 16 different rounds of sanctions on Russia. The latest is claimed to be the most severe and could seriously destroy the Russian economy even further. With inflation already at 9.9% and interest rates over 20%, it is quite a situation Russia finds itself in. But Ankara refrained from joining these sanctions, ensuring that economic ties between the two countries remain. The reason for this? Well, Russia supplies a significant portion of Turkey's natural gas. Other trade between the two countries includes things like oil and tourism, especially with the two countries having a bit of cultural ties. Finally, Turkey played host to one of the first meetings between the two nations. Ankara managed to bring together the foreign ministers of both Ukraine and Russia. Unfortunately, the meeting would not be fruitful and didn't yield any solution to the problem. It is also worth mentioning that Turkey shares interests with Russia, especially surrounding the current situation in Syria. Both nations have a vested interest in the outcome of the recent rebel uprising in the country. But why hasn't anyone called out Turkey for their fence-sitting? Well, Turkey has direct control over the Black Sea, which gives it strategic significance. It could easily allow Russian warships to pass through and enter the wider open oceans. This would not only pose a threat to Kiev, but could even be a significant problem for the United States and the rest of Europe. By all accounts, the main goal for Turkey is to have this war end as soon as possible, maintain ties with Russia due to its interwoven economy, and keep NATO happy by supporting the sovereignty of Ukraine. Despite this seeming like a tightrope, it actively seeks to develop its own interests. While the UK, the EU, and Russia are all superpowers spending resources, Turkey is building a nation. This could soon see them rise as one of the European superpowers. But which solutions have Turkey come up with? Make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Smash that bell notification to stay updated with the latest military report. As mentioned, Turkey was the first to bring the two warring parties to the negotiation table. The country played host to talks between the Russian and Ukrainian foreign ministers in March 2022. But aside from that, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has also focused his efforts on hosting peace talks in the country. Since Turkey has great bilateral ties with the West and the Eastern Bloc nations, Ankara seems like the perfect venue for neutral discussions. In March 2024, Ankara also exclaimed that they do not believe Russia is likely to succeed in their invasion, rather suggesting dialogue between the various stakeholders. One problem, however, is that Turkey has not set up any real peace plans. In fact, only Europe has suggested peace plans, all of which includes Russia simply abandoning their operations and giving Ukraine its territory back. But judging by the Russian demeanor, this seems to be an overreach by the EU. Nevertheless, President Erdogan once again stated in February 2025 that the only way for sustainable peace is by restoring Ukraine's full territorial integrity. This includes the previously annexed location of Crimea. Turkey has also pointed out the need for restoring the Donetsk, Luhansk, and Kherson oblasts to Ukraine, moves that Russia seems unwilling to abide by. To force this, Ankara has ramped up the delivery of armored vehicles, corvettes, and bolstered defensive capabilities for Ukraine. This means that Turkey is currently walking a very, very fine line. But what about Turkish troops? Is this an actual possibility? And how would Russia respond? Nowadays, almost every country has their own idea of what peace would look like for Ukraine. The fact of matter is that peace needs to be established before it can be enforced. In a recent meeting held by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the UK and many of its European allies pledged their undying support for Ukraine. By using the proceeds of frozen Russian assets, Britain is planning to build 5,000 new air defense missiles to send to Ukraine. This strategy is very simple. It basically relies on EU countries to continue pressuring the Russian economy. The hopes are that should Russia lose its economy, people will suffer. This suffering will increase the pressure on President Vladimir Putin to perhaps end the war. Once he ends the war, sanctions will be lifted, which again secures the Russian economy. Well, that was the European plan, and it used to be the same strategy Washington would abide by. Then this happened. This unprecedented move follows the recent breakdown in diplomacy between Russia and Kiev, a situation that saw both President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance rip into Volodymyr Zelensky. It not only caught Europe off guard, but sent EU policymakers into perhaps rethinking their support for Ukraine. Without a solid US backstop, the EU could push forward with their agenda, but at what cost? With Turkey not willing to cooperate, and terms of sanctions, and its military presence still a major talking point, the EU might just have to give up on this fight, but they won't. Fortunately, it seems like President Trump might have one final card to play, and this is to convince Ukraine to sign a minerals deal. Should the deal be enacted, it would permit the US to set up companies in Ukraine to process these minerals. According to Trump and large parts of his constituency, having US civilians in Ukraine would serve as a way of deterring any future Russian aggression. Moreover, Trump has said that Putin will accept such a deal, a claim that has not yet been verified by any person in power. For Turkey, this once again allows them to step in and make peace. President Erdogan made his first attempt at a deal at the G20 in November of 2024. According to numerous reports, it is suggested that Ankara would propose a plan, which would turn the border along Ukraine and Russia into another demilitarized zone. This would be similar to the current border between North and South Korea. The deal suggested that international forces would be deployed on peacekeeping missions, whereby they would sustain the peace, while delaying Ukraine's NATO membership by 10 years. Despite Russia rejecting this offer, it would have been the closest to a realistic post-war peace agreement that anyone has put on the table. Ultimately, it ensures that Turkey still maintains good relations with Russia and also creates a stalemate between the two countries in which no one takes a decisive victory or loss. Problem is that Ukraine has already lost about 18% of its territory. This is about 42,000 square miles of land. Essentially, freezing the war as it is and retaining the current front lines as borders would see Ukraine walk away with a bloody nose. Furthermore, Ukraine currently holds a decent chunk of territory in Kursk, and Russia is not willing to let Kiev take this. This is also the reason for the introduction of North Korean troops to shore up these counteroffensive initiatives. So basically, this means that the Turkish plan will not be effective. But why? There are currently 3 major problems with the Turkish peace plan. First of all, Russian resistance is a big problem. Moscow is unwilling to discuss these plans if Turkey continues its military support to Ukraine. Russia has repeatedly cited the killing of Russian forces using Ukrainian drones as a big problem. The fact that Turkey is part of NATO also creates more distrust among the Kremlin. Secondly, the West and many other NATO allies have further cited their skepticism toward Ankara due to its energy and trade ties with the Russian Federation. 2 such instances are the Akuyu nuclear plant and the delay in accepting Sweden as part of NATO. Finally, a major hindrance in these negotiations is the fact Ukraine insists on keeping its sovereign integrity. This means that Kiev is unwilling to cede any of its territory and wants to have it restored to pre-war boundaries. Unfortunately, Russia doesn't seem to be willing to allow this. So, despite the strong Turkish drive to restore peace, it seems like too many hindrances are currently blocking any meaningful progress from being made. This leaves Turkey with very few options, only being limited to perhaps sending troops directly to Ukraine. With the Trump peace agreement more and more likely to eventually take place, Europe is scrambling for a plan to ensure that Ukraine will be protected. One of the first suggestions is that of sending air support. The UK has hinted at perhaps sending the coveted Eurofighter Typhoon to patrol the Ukrainian border. While this would be a great step in the right direction, it is simply not feasible. The UK doesn't have enough of these aircraft to sustain these peacekeeping missions. And even if London sends about 20 of these 4.5 Gen aircraft to Ukraine, it will still leave large gaps. A second suggestion was sending troops to the demilitarized zone. These troops would serve as a deterrence for further Russian aggression. Or it is supposed to, according to Prime Minister Starmer. While modern Charles de Gaulle and French President Emmanuel Macron have also proposed sending troops, Paris have recently backtracked on this proposal, rather suggesting adding more military aid for Ukraine. This includes the likes of the Mirage 2000-5, a 4th-generation fighter, which currently serves a bigger role than the US-built F-16. Thanks to its ability to carry the Storm Shadow cruise missile, which can easily reach deep into Russian territory. Not only does it pose a threat to Russia, but it has been designed to work in conjunction with current Western air defenses. On the Turkish side, reports suggest that President Erdogan has discussed the possibility of sending troops to the Ukrainian border. Erdogan supposedly discussed this with both Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. According to Bloomberg, this is further solidified with Turkey stating that boots on the ground could work, but Turkey has an ultimatum. Ankara believes that before enforcing any peace plans, they should play a pivotal role in these negotiations. But despite any agreements being reached, the total number of troops that could possibly be stationed in Ukraine could number around 30,000. This would prove a serious deterrent for a future Russian invasion. Admittedly, the involvement of Turkish troops seems speculative at best. So how will this play out? Judging by all the rhetoric and the current speculation, it doesn't seem like Turkey is willing to involve itself in something that could hurt its ties with either Russia or its Western allies. Should Turkey send troops to Ukraine, it will almost certainly be on Turkey's own terms. Moreover, it might not be feasible for Turkey to even send troops to Ukraine. The Turkish economy is still an emerging market and currently has an economic growth projection of just over 2% for 2025. What it could mean for Turkey is that the country is more inclined to reduce military spending. Currently, Turkey holds a presence on its northern border and in the Black Sea. By not having to secure these borders, it does open up further economic opportunities. Perhaps the best solution for Turkey would be to have the war just ended. This ensures that Ankara has rode out the storm of walking the fine line. Ankara would retain its strong ties with Russia, while being in a favorable light with its Western allies. It is also worth mentioning that Russia doesn't like the fact that Turkey is siding with some of its Western allies on critical foreign policy. The only difference is that Russia is dependable on its exports to Turkey, and it simply cannot afford to possibly damage this reputation. Furthermore, the continuous sanctioning of Russia could cripple its economy even further. This will make Russia even more dependent on some of the countries, who are still willing to serve as backers. At the end of the day, a peace agreement would be beneficial to all parties. Having Turkey as part of the peace enforcement process would significantly bolster the West. Ankara could re-establish stronger ties with Moscow, which could help the Russian economy recover. But what do you think? Will Turkey be able to tread this fine line, or will Turkish troops deepen the rift between Moscow and the West? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel for your daily dose of the military report. And thank you for watching.